Hi, everybody. Oh man, so what a wild week this has been. Give the usual a little bit of time for folks to get in here. Start off, Thomas Barron. Thank you for the $10 super chat, man. I really appreciate it. Just wondering about rainbow fish and when or if any will be available. So if you're talking about specifically rainbow fish I keep, I'm not really actively breeding any rainbows right now. I'm trying to figure out how I can fix that problem. But um, basically put, you guys have probably seen a bunch of news around Amazon, right? Like there's a return to office thing that's coming up, and my org is trying to figure out how that's going to apply to us. If I remain working from home, then I'm going to start working on things to start breeding rainbow fish some more. Probably only like 1 or 2 species, not a lot. But if I have to be in the office 3 days a week, it'll make it really hard to feed the babies as much as they need for the first like month of their life, in order to be successful. So we'll see how that shakes out. So yeah, for me personally, no rainbow fish right now, and no clue when they'll be available. However, if you're talking about like the sponsor of tonight's giveaway, which is Redfish Bluefish, he normally doesn't do rainbow fish, but he does have a small group of rainbows in right now, and I don't know if they're on the website. So let me check while we let folks get in here, and then we'll talk about what we're giving away. I mean, you guys saw it in the thumbnail, but it's pretty sweet, and it might blow your mind a little bit with precisely what the giveaway is. So he does have like the pseudomcgills, but he doesn't have any of the bigger rainbow fish, if you're talking about those, which are my jam, right? I like the big boys. All the Melanitanias, Glossolepis, and Chalatherinas. He does have a small group, and I know he has this group of Melanitania Gary Langi in that were locally bred from a guy who's pretty awesome. But I don't know if he's going to sell those on the website or what he plans to do with them. So we'll see what happens with those. But Jason reached out and was basically like, hey, do you want to do another giveaway? We have this. I've got this fish that I want to do as a giveaway. And yeah, so here's how this is going to roll out. Okay. I need to be smart and get my Nightbot up and running. And put in my keyword and make sure that folks can do it. All right, there we go. So let's talk about tonight's fish. So we need to bring up the picture again. These bad boys right here are Turkana jewel cichlids. They're not super aggressive unless they're trying to breed, but they're a smaller cichlid. If you guys are familiar with Secret History Living Inside Your Aquarium, my buddy Alex, he's bred a bunch of these fish. I think these fish actually came directly from Alex, if I remember correctly. They're good in at least a 20-gallon, although realistically, I would advise you, because of the number of them, which is the winner is going to get 7 of these fish. Overnight shipped, direct to you, free of charge. So 7 of these Turkana jewel cichlids is what the giveaway is tonight. So I would say, if you can, a 40 breeder or bigger is going to be great. But if you want to spread them across multiple tanks, then something like a 20-gallon or a 29-gallon is going to be fine. I think you'd be better off with a 20 long instead of a 20 high. But just keep that in mind, my fellow fish friends. And in order to enter this giveaway tonight, it's very simple. We're going to do the same thing we did last time. hashtag RFBF for redfish bluefish. My buddy Jason is sponsoring this bad boy. So if you want to win, unfortunately, United States only. We don't ship to Canada, don't ship international. Can't be doing that one. Unfortunately, Jason doesn't have that stuff locked down. But I don't know why I said we. It's not me shipping anything. I just get to be the lucky duck that gives them away. So hashtag RFBF will get you entered into tonight's giveaway. So yeah, just keep in mind that you will have to give Jason your address for whoever wins. So just be prepared for that one, because we got to be able to ship them somewhere. And that you'll be getting 7 of these fish. These are actually super hard to photograph, by the way. So this photo is not the best. They color up way more than this. They're an absolutely beautiful fish. And when you have them happy, they can be very prolific breeders. So let me explain a little part about this fish in general, right? Typical tropical temperatures work well. It's really flexible on water parameters, so you don't have to worry about like being super specific on something. Basically, just have like almost any other apistogramma. A little bit softer water is nice, but in general, just good quality water at a slightly warmer temperature, and you're gonna be okay. If you do have questions, Jason will happily answer all those for you if you're the winner. So just keep those in mind. I know that last week's winner, Mr. Jeff Kane, has already sent me some pictures on the member Discord of his angelfish that showed up, and they're looking pretty fantastic. So I would expect the same out of these bad boys. You know, Jason takes a lot of care in his shipping. He's one of those few people out there who, when he's shipping fish, he does it right. And you know, for you guys will know that a lot like Dan's fish, for example, there are very few people out there who I would very affirmatively say does it right. And Jason's one of those guys. Pumper Cell said, fantastic. Your hat is fantastic. So this is actually a kind of a limited edition hat in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, it's a chocobo for those that aren't super familiar with Final Fantasy. This actually came from Final Fantasy 14's Fan Fest, which is a live event that happened in Las Vegas back in, I think I got this one in 2018, if I remember right. Yeah, that sounds right. Might have been, yeah, I think it was 2018. It was well before pandemic, but it could have possibly been, I'd have to go look it up to remember precisely what year, because it might have been 2016. No, it's 2016. It's 2016. I got this one in 2016, because I remember this is like right after I got back into the hobby. Well, not right after. I'd been in the hobby for a little bit. And it was right after I'd been laid off at my old job at Microsoft. So I had already prepaid for all of this vacation and everything. So it was like, yep, gotta do things. You're just gonna go anyway and let my brain relax. Man, YouTube, stop trying to get me to push commercials. You F right off. All right, so again, RFBF, I probably should like put some other thing up, but yeah, people will figure it out. We'll leave these up for a little bit longer. These pretty little fish here, and then of course these fish over here. But other than that, like we'll dive into mostly question and answers tonight. I don't have another topic tonight. Let's go into questions. So Connor Costello asked, random question: have you heard of I hate the name for this place, by the way. They have many different sellers and have many fish, fresh, salt, plants, corals, invertebrates. Brand new website. So it's not super new. They were doing some really heavy advertising at Triple Crown. But basically, it is Aquatic Art's version of Get Gills. And I know that some people might not know what Get Gills is. Other people might be like, well, it's not exactly Get Gills, but it's Get Gills. It's creating a marketplace for folks like you and I to be able to sell your fish. I personally haven't used it. And a big reason why I do that is not because I dislike aquatic arts necessarily, but more because I like Get Gills is more of a grassroots thing, so I like supporting Get Gills a bit better. Also, yeah, it was put together by Dan's Fish, and I love Dan, so there's that. I have a bias. I like Dan, but um, it's a bigger company trying to take a slice. And the last time I looked at some of their information, it seemed like they were taking a bigger slice than Get Gills does, but in theory, it's also potentially a larger platform for people to use. Um, at some point, I probably have to go look at the sellers that are on there and see if anything's actually interesting to me. But I have gotten to a point where I'm so kind of locked into the part of my hobby that I like the most that I don't necessarily need a big marketplace like that. I've used Aquabid, Brody Hammer, who actually brings that up. Thoughts on Aquabid? We can talk about Aquabid too. We can get into long rants about all these different marketplaces for fish, right? Aquabid is basically eBay for fish. There are several problems with Aquabid. One being the website. It is 2004. It has not seen any updates. It is not. Its search engine is bad. It it is just designed really poorly. It is designed like super early eBay. However, there are a lot of phenomenal breeders that sell their fish on there, and there are some very rare fish you can find up there. However, often you will end up having to pay quite a premium. And just the way that you send money and all these things, it's really outdated. It is really what it comes down to. The Get Gills and VVVVVVVVV. I make fun of it because I just think the name is stupid. I'll be honest. Because it just doesn't feel like it makes sense with fish. They have a more seamless checkout process, right? It's just built significantly more user-friendly to make it easier to, as a consumer, buy things. Where, Aquabid is, archaic. It's you won an auction, and now you need to, contact the seller and figure out how to send your money appropriately, and it's just bad. It's just bad. But there are really great sellers on Aquabid. Make sure that you read reviews. Absolutely read reviews. But yeah, there's some amazing stuff on Aquabid. If you know who to buy from or what you're hunting for, just finding stuff can be a nightmare. Johnny from Dan's Fish mentions that Get Gills takes 2%. Yeah, I remember it being very small. It's basically enough to pay all of the operation costs, and that's it. Whereas VV takes 15. Oh. If I'm not getting some insane some insane update or whatever of my shipping costs, if it's something where you can effectively create shipping labels under Aquatic Arts' billing rates, maybe then that matters because the shipping's not as atrocious, but whatever. Just be prepared, do your research accordingly. So yeah, that's my thing. I like Get Gills because it was kind of the first, and it's a little more grassrootsy. There's a lot of great sellers on Get Gills as well. There's also people who can still find my store and email me through Get Gills, despite the fact that my email is on my YouTube channel all over the place. So whatever's happening there. But yeah, I like the from what I looked at in the VV site or Vivi or however, I'm not sure how they actually want it pronounced. That's part of the reason why I make fun of the name, is that it's not simple. Aquabid, Get Gills. Very apparent. VIVVY? I don't know. I don't know. I never said I was good at speaking English or reading. My reading comprehension terrible. But yeah, so that's my spiel on that one. Hopefully, it gave you some semblance of help. Nabokov fan question the thoughts video idea. I recently purchased Contra Soil. Okay, that's UNS Aqua Soil for a tank. There's basically close to 0 videos on YouTube for that product. Might be a good video concept if they sponsor it. Yeah, getting sponsorships from like UNS is a nightmare. So I've heard from some people. It's kind of like ADA, where and some other places where basically you have to be like a monstrous channel to even stand a chance. Which I'm not, right? Obviously. But now what I will say is basically UNS Contra Soil is Fluval Stratum is original ADA Amazonia. They're all so similar that it almost doesn't matter. The main difference is like ADA Amazonia puts off the most ammonia for the most amount of time, and then the other side of the coin is that like Brightwell, because it's ash based and not clay based, puts off no ammonia, but otherwise is nutrient rich. So that's like really the only killers between those people. You know, how do people learn to speak English when the people who speak it still can't do it right? Don't ask me, man. I don't know. Obviously. Paul Soltero, my good friend. Paul, Aquatic Arts was pushing, we'll just go with Vivi. I'm assuming it's Vivi. Great character from Final Fantasy IX. If you're a Final Fantasy fan, you know who I'm talking about. At the Triple Crown, without much info, he believes they now have a $25 flat rate shipping fee from each shipper. If that's the case, that's pretty nice, because like that's cheap shipping. Yeah, I think. So to go back to the Aqua Soil thing with Nabokov fan, because he's adding some extra context. I think the big thing is when I have some room, I want to do a side-by-side of multiple, so like Fluval Stratum, ADA, and I've done Brightwell independently, so I probably don't need to do that, and then like UNS Contra Soil probably, and actually like take readings and see how they are after each tank is getting a water change every 3 days or whatever it is, and doing some statistics to actually kind of show you some of those metrics and things before you then go and like start putting plants in them and all kind of nonsense. But yeah, there's stuff when I have more space to set up tanks, which right now I just don't. I had a friend basically say that he was willing to send me several $100s worth of stuff if I could just find room to put up a tank. And I was like, I wish I could do, but I can't. I got no room and no power. How sad is that, right? You get like a buddy who's like, I want you to help me with an experiment. Do you have room for a tank? All you need to do is set up the bare tank. That's it. I'll send you everything else. And I was like, bruh, I can't. This is so terrible, right? But it's my life right now, unfortunately. But yeah, I have a goal to do some testing like that in the future. And if I've got to buy like a bag of UNS Contra Soil, I really don't care. I'll put it to use, right? But right now, not so bad. Stephen P. The secret is to learn English from not Bentley. That's true. It's very true. You will learn far better if you try to learn that language, that confusing as F language from not me. Oh man. Again, if you want to win these fish that are still up in the corner, 7 of them, hashtag RFBF for redfish, bluefish, in the chat. That will get you entered in tonight's drawing. You will be winning potentially 7 Turkana Jewel Cichlids. If you are selected, overnight shipped directly to you from Redfish Bluefish, courtesy of Redfish Bluefish. Yes, I think I covered who's carrying this enough, right? But I got to give my guy some love because he's going to send 7 really pretty fish. Got to give him some love, right? All right, we'll drop the peak shore now. Let me see here. What else do we got? If you do have questions, at Bentley Pasco makes it super easy for me to see them. Let's see if I missed anything else. Uh-oh. Yeah, there's the initial swath of RFBFs. Okay, we don't have any new questions quite yet. Oh, man, that means I get to, like, randomly babble about stuff. I think that's where you guys should be afraid. If I'm not, like, on target, this is where it's going to get really off the rails. Oh, so I suppose I should say this. A massive thank you, especially to you folks, you know, like you more dedicated folks who've been hearing live streams and stuff. But the video from Saturday about the PetSmart trick is, as of right now, literally the best performing video I've ever put out. We'll see how that goes over time, but I did not expect that video to do as well as it's doing. So thank you to all of you who left comments, thumbs up it, shared it, whatever it may be. I guess it would technically be like the first closest to a viral video my channel's ever had. Yeah, it's pretty wild. I've been when I was watching it at first, it was kind of like on track with what my normal videos do for like its first 2 or 3 hours while I was out like running a bunch of errands Saturday. And then all of a sudden it just like, I don't know, climbed on a rocket ship or something and just went hog wild. So for those of you who like watched it or shared it, whatever that may be, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's been really cool to have something. And there's been tons of comments. There is this one comment. I have to say this. I almost need to look it directly up, but basically a guy was like, I found out where you are, and I looked up every PetSmart in your area, and I called each and every one of them to tell them what you're doing so that they could be on the lookout for you. And was like, oh, okay. Am I supposed to be angry or something? It's just so, it was like, what else? You know how occasionally you get, you guys have probably dealt with this. You've seen much bigger like fish tubers than me. There's always some weird comments, but anytime I see stuff like that, I'm just like, all right, you do you, boss. Their system allows it. Their system allows it. Like, there's also like a heads up that occasionally you will find those rimless tanks where they forget to pull 2 rimless tanks apart, and they're locked together. So when you like go to buy them, you can kind of walk out with 2 tanks for one. I mean, that's kind of pseudo stealing, but not really. But like somebody had mentioned it, and it was just like, hey man, if they let you get away with it, I guess if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Oh man. What a question. All right, let me get to like a fish question first, and then Stephen P. We'll deal with you. All right. Oh, I want to get this comment first. So from Brian, I think cartoonist Dave Calais said it best: the English language cobbled together by 3 blind men with a German dictionary. It's so good. Well, I mean, German was almost the national language. National is a big quotation mark, so there's no official language for the United States, right? But it was almost German way back. Yeah, and I'm so glad that even like folks who've listened to me babble about fish for a long period of time found some usefulness out of that. Mary Beth. Recommendation for a light for a 5-gallon rimless cube, low to medium light plants. There's a lot of stuff you can do. Honestly, because I saw this recently, depending on where you're planning on putting this, Mary Beth, If you have it by a window that gets a decent amount of sun, you might be okay just getting ambient sunlight through a window. And the reason why I say this, there in my club's home show, which is why we didn't have our episode last, or our episode stream last week. My brain is out the window, man. I was at my club meeting watching our home show and seeing people win stuff and all the wonderful people that participated. But there's a couple that have participated. They had very different tanks. It's very interesting to see the differences in their hobby between the two of them. So one had his tank on automated water changes. He just has one tank in his kitchen that is controlled by Alexa. So he will just tell Alexa to trigger a water change. And it turns on a solenoid, starts running water into the tank, and then it has a float valve and drains, and it takes it out to their like outdoor garden on their patio. It's just genius, right? And then the wife of the couple, she has a number of low-tech tanks by windows with no lights, and they all look amazing. And it's just about balancing the plant load to handle it so there's minimal algae. She doesn't really get a lot of algae, and she has them all kind of like not heavily stocked, but there's a decent number of fish in them, and they look beautiful. It's all simple plants, a little bit of stems to make sure you've got a higher growing plant to handle like your nitrates and stuff, but tons of stuff that makes it easy, right? Other than that, there's a lot of options. So there's several of the like clip-on style lights. I would argue that the JC&P one that I had for a while is probably way too powerful unless you dial it way down. The little 3.0 nano plant light, the puck one. So there's that as an option if you want something super controllable. It's a little more expensive, but there's tons of small lights, and arguably, if you place the tank right, depending on how you're doing it, you could get something like a standard daylight bulb that's up a little bit, like a simple lamp would be, that's just shining down and giving it some simple ambient light. If you're going mostly low demand plants, there's a lot of options for you. But if you do want a dedicated light, even something like the Phoenix Stingray is relatively good. The like smaller versions of the JCMP or Higer, there's a ton of options out there. I would argue if you have an option, look for something that has an ability to dim it, because you'll want to be able to bring that power down if it's too much light, because you are dealing with something so small and your water parameters at 5 gallons shift a little bit more, right? So that would be the route I would take. And if you need some direct links, Mary Beth, just shoot me an email. Bentley.pasco@gmail.com. We'll put it in chat just in case, but I think you've emailed me before, Mary Beth. But shoot me an email. If you need some more direct links to a couple of options for a 5 gallon cube, and I'll dig some out at some point this week and shoot them your way. All right, now, Stephen P. Let's deal with this smart ass son of a. Yeah, no, I've been very lucky on that particular video, man. By the way, man, you're going to be out at? Aren't you going to Keystone Clash, Mr. Aquatics? You and I got to talk again relatively soon. Just, I don't know, like a voice call or something, phone call, some nonsense. I haven't babbled with you in too long. We need to babble, good sir. Okay, Richard Reynolds, does spiky moss do well in hard water? Spiky moss is one of the ones I haven't personally tried. So my concern is this. Most mosses tend to like softer water. Java moss is pretty good at adjusting to almost anything because it has such a minimal demand. Same with like Sawassertang, right? I just remembered I have a bag of Sawassertang in a bucket that I need to get out. Oh boy. I need to get it in a tank. This is where my brain's at, which is to say all over the damn place. So I guess it would depend on how hard your water is. If your water is not like literal liquid rock, like 800 TDS crazy, You probably could do it, but what I would do is make sure that it's in some active flow, because you don't want detritus to gather on it. That's where a lot of mosses tend to have trouble, is if detritus gathers, then algae forms and it cuts off its ability to do well. But if you keep it in active flow, which is where I've always suggested, like, I'll attach moss to a sponge filter and it kind of gets this constant gentle wave, and you might be worried, that's just going to suck the gunk into it. I put it on the very top of the sponge filter, so most of the gunk going down underneath, it sits on top and it just keeps movement going. And that will help the detritus and stuff filter through the moss into the sponge. It's been my trick for a lot of mosses in the past, but just in general, reasonable water flow helps. And it doesn't have to be like in the outlet of a canister or something. It just has to be somewhere where the water flow is doing the most work to help prevent detritus from collecting on the moss. Unless you have like a shrimp tank, then shrimp will do that work for you. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see here. Adam Worley, Bentley, completely unrelated, best Final Fantasy VII character. It's definitely not Cloud. Cloud is super boring. All of the main protagonists for Final Fantasy in modern Final Fantasy games suck. They all suck. The side characters are all the ones with the interesting storylines. I would say it's probably a toss-up between Vincent and depending on how broad you consider Final Fantasy VII, because there's lots of side games, right? But probably it's between Vincent and Red 13 as far as most interesting story. For me personally, I'm a big fan of Vincent, but I also love Aerith to death. And it is a travesty that we in the United States never got the version of the game where you can resurrect Aerith, because in Japan you can. We won't go into my like PTSD scars about how I invested so much in that character, not knowing she was going to die the first time I played it, and then having her die and losing all of that work and gear. Ooh. The rage was strong, man. The rage was strong. Oh no. Don't. Why do you do this to me, Paul? Turkana jewels are no longer a hemichromous. The taxonomists have changed them to a rubro catochromous. Say that 10 times fast. No. Because I think I said rubro and not rubra. So I already screwed it up. Leo29, what would you say is the best planted soil? Yes. I think it always depends on your situation. Because an example would be, if you're doing all epiphyte plants, you don't need a freaking aqua soil. You can just put in sand or gravel or whatever the heck you want, right? It's all about the application. Now, if you're doing like heavy root feeders in a tank where they're very reliant on the aqua soil, then I would say most of them are roughly equal. And there will be some people that like lose their S online on the interwebs, where everyone is perfect and no one is ever wrong except you, right? It's always us that is wrong, and the internet geniuses that know everything under the sun about like buffering capacity and blah blah blah. It's all bullshit. All of it is bullshit. They all have such similar CEC rate, which that's the cation exchange capacity. They all have very similar capabilities for a short period of time to buffer your pH in your water, which is to say to pull out some of the hardness because they're absorbing all of that, right? But it's so minimal in the differences that what it comes down to is, do you need the ammonia to come off of it to help you start your cycle or not? If you are adding stuff to an already established tank, I would argue Brightwell is one of your best bets because it isn't going to leach ammonia and you don't have to handle that spike. If you do need that ammonia, then find whatever is the best deal. Whether that's Fluval Stratum, probably my personal choice because usually it's just at the best price. ADA, maybe you find some at a local club auction. Somebody's got a leftover bag they're selling for dirt cheap. Then ADA is the best because it's cheap, right? I can't tell you the number of times, mostly because I've forgotten, not because it's so many, but I think it's at least 6 or 7 times now where I've been able to buy anywhere between half or a completely full unopened bag of ADA Amazonia for like $10 to $15. And I'm talking the big bags, not the little boys, right? And every time it's just like, this is an amazing deal. I'm very happy. Right? Anytime you can get a screaming deal, all those aqua soils are so similar that it just doesn't matter which one you choose. But like, do you need more iron? Then you probably want some amount of laterite in your substrate. And maybe that means getting fluorite red. Maybe that means looking at the laterin substrat that Brightwell makes, which I love that stuff. It's been amazing in Fallen Forest. And you can see it in the way that the lilies and the crypts are growing. Because like they melt it completely back. And in 2 months, there's this dense field of crypts and these big, beautiful lilies. It's because there's iron in the root systems with that wonderful aqua soil. So it's doing all the work it needs to do for me, right? Do you need something more fine because you're doing finer rooted things? You need to hold it down better. Look at something that's got a powder type equivalent, right? There's the Rio Oscuro VF. There's the powder type Amazonia. Like there's just so many options. It's more about picking the one that fits what you're trying to do than it is about picking the best. There is no best. Anybody who says there is only one best is full of shit. Full of it. Or that's the product they sell and that's how they make their money. Those are your two options. It's all opinion, baby. It's not subjective. Just find what works best and what gives you the best deal. Then that's the best one. Connor Costello. Chat jumped. Oh, Jeff Kane. Dude, thank you, man. This guy wins fish, gifts memberships. What a nice guy. What a nice guy. Oh, tons of you got memberships. Look at that. So dope. All right, I got to jump back up to this question because it was a good one. Connor Costello, have you heard of Barclaya longifolia? Yes. It is a nymphaea species. It looks easy to keep, like all the species of flowers underwater. It looks almost like a crypt. Yeah, so it's... Okay. Barclayas are kind of like Lagonandras in that they're part of one family but act like a completely different plant. They are relatively... Barclaya longifolia is relatively easy. I personally haven't grown it because I just haven't taken the time to get some from some of my friends that have. But I've got friends who have done it. It's really not that difficult to plant. Give it a try. If you've got an option to get some and it's not costing you like a ton of money, try it out, man. Have fun with it. It's a cool looking plant. Super cool looking plant. Yes, I'm thinking of adding Brightwell substrate to my current bare bottom 75-gallon angel tank. Do you think I could safely add the angels back immediately after adding the Brightwell? Okay. So, yes, with an asterisk. And here's why. If you are going to do it to an established tank, when you're doing a brand new tank, we don't worry about rinsing that kind of substrate, right? Adding to an established tank, very thoroughly rinse the substrate first, because you want to make sure you don't get all the dust up in the water column, but also that will minimize some of the nutrient spikes that can occur. You should not, because I haven't, when I've done my testing, see any ammonia spikes, because Brightwell, especially Rio Oscuro, does not leach ammonia per Brightwell. And in my tests, it has not. But with all that extra dust and stuff, if you don't rinse it really thoroughly, you can get a spike of some of your other, so like your nitrates, and that might cause some issues with your angels. So just rinse it really thoroughly before you add it in, right? And then you should be okay. If you do see the water cloud up, because sometimes you just can't rinse enough of it, just do a water change after you add everything in and give it like Nah, couple, like an hour or so for your filter to just kind of clean up some of that extra stuff, and then put your angels back in. You should be all right. They'll be okay for a short period of time out of the tank in like a bucket. Just make sure they have air, and you'll be all right. They'll be all right. Stephen P. I'm definitely going to the Clash. Excellent. I can make fun of you in person. No, but seriously, we need to chatter here sometime soon. Tom Hessick, hi, Bentley from Wisconsin. Wisconsin. I eventually want to make it out to like the Minnesota, Wisconsin area. One, I have a couple friends out there that I haven't seen either ever or in a very long time. It's a combination of the two. I have a few different friends in a few different places. But also because in Wisconsin specifically is one of the best rainbow breeders in the United States, period. That's Marcel of Marcel's Fish. He sells fish to Dan's Fish. He's a phenomenal breeder of rainbow fish and a lot of other things too. And I've had an open invitation to go to his place since like before the pandemic. It's just a matter of like trying to find travel that makes that work. Because travel's expensive. You guys know how it is. Traveling is a nightmare. Yeah. But yeah. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Nathan Hovey. I lost all of my I cannot pronounce it tang recently. Tim from Creep Creeper sent it to me, and it was the tank that crashed. Oh, dude, that sucks. That sucks. Like, especially so from talking to some of my friends who are big salt heads, so many of those tangs are, unless you mean like Sawasser tang, the plant. If so, man, we can get you more. It's easy. But if you're talking about like tangs like the saltwater fish, then I'm a little worried because those get spendy fast, man. I'm sure you mean Sawasser tang. Now that I look at it and the joke at like how impossible that is to spell. Except for Brian, who like actually has it properly done. I can't do that. I'm not that capable. It'll be fine. So Sawasser tang is near bulletproof. So what I've noticed is that you basically have to have it in not too much flow, let it do what it wants, and not have it in excessive nutrients. Because once you start getting into higher levels of nitrates, it really hates life. But if you keep it in a very low, very lean nutrient system, it does really, really well. Orange cones, I'm harvesting 77 Farlowella Vittata eggs after live stream. Whoa. Farlowellas are such a cool fish, but I haven't had a setup where I felt I could give them the right home, if that makes sense. Brody Hammer Sawasser tang giveaway, maybe. I mean, I probably could. I would. Jason gave me a giant bag of it. It's literally like a gallon bag packed to the gills. There's so much of it. Jerry Gerardo. What would be a good scape, especially plants for the Turkana jewels? Oh, that's a good question. In that regard, I would say I would go look at some of the videos from Secret History Living Inside Your Aquarium, my buddy Alex. He's been breeding those fish for a while, and he keeps them in some fairly planted tanks. From what I have seen, as long as they have some good space, they will leave a lot of those plants alone. I personally think that things like crypts and swords are going to be some of your best bets. Anything that, once it's established, really roots itself in well, so that it's hard for them if they're zipping around and getting a little. I also want to say chirpy with each other, if you guys are familiar with the term chirping from hockey, but when they're kind of like messing with each other and showing who's the new boss, right? They're not super aggressive like a lot of cichlids, but they kind of play fight a little bit. Making sure you don't have stuff that's easy to knock loose. And you could do the same thing with just like some really nicely established Java fern, give them places to hide, and mark territories and break line of sight, especially because we're talking about for the giveaway tonight. If you're not entered, make sure hashtag RFBF in chat. That will get you entered for redfish, bluefish. you with that many fish, you want to make sure that they have places to break lines of sight. If two are fighting a little too much, have some territories mapped out, things like that. So having good pockets of plants where they can kind of like, this is my space and that's your space, is going to help you. I mean, you could do something like this, like brain dead scape behind me, where it's just basically crypts, and maybe add a few taller plants, and you'll be fine. Some rocks, some wood, some caves, whatever it may be, you'll be doing great. They're not. They don't really demand anything crazy. I just wouldn't go for hyper dense plants, so I wouldn't look at things like guppy grass or hornwort or Pogostemon stellatus octopus, things that can grow super dense. I would try to avoid those. But like things like crypts, swords, bacopas is probably going to be fine because they don't really get it all entangled with each other. Rotalis should be okay, but I would more lean towards Ludwigia instead, because very similarly, it leaves lots of room for fish to move through it. You could do things like nymphaeas and all the lilies and stuff like that. That'd be great, just because they leave lots of space underneath. They create kind of this upper layer of protection. Lots of good options. Lots of good options. Steve's Aquatics. Anybody know of a way to shut off the surface skimmer on the Seachem title? You cannot, without physically altering it with like a bunch of silicone and some plastic. Unfortunately. What a lot of people have done is open the chamber up and jam some sponge in there, and that helps minimize some of the flow and prevent things from getting in through those slats. I've seen that as like the most common modification to help minimize some of that stuff. So hopefully that helps. All right, the armada of gifted subs. Thanks, Jeff. You the best, man. You the best. All right, trying to catch up. I promise. I promise. Paul Saltero, Gary Lang is speaking at the Raleigh Aquarium Society's Carolina Aquarium Workshop along with Robert Lupton from Flip Aquatics this weekend. I've seen Gary advertising a bunch of that stuff, and I'm a little jealous. I won't lie. That's a good combo of people. I'm sure that's going to be a fantastic. So if you're in the area near the Carolinian Aquarium Society for Raleigh, North Carolina, right? It is North Carolina, is it? Please don't tell me I've got that wrong. Look, geography was never my specialty, all right? I was a math and science kid. Okay, North Carolina. I was about to feel real dumb if I got that wrong. Whew. It's been that kind of day, all right? It's been that kind of day. But yeah, should be fantastic. I know he's doing his presentation on basically finding the Kalitawa, which is a fantastic talk, and it's got tons of awesome information, and just the pictures are phenomenal for that particular one. And then Rob's just a pretty chill dude. You know, he's fun to chat with. I got an opportunity to meet him years ago. I think it was like 5 years ago now, when he was out at the Aquarium Co-op. And guy's just super nice. He's just such a super nice guy to talk to. Oh, Leo209. A while back, I got some fluval aquatic peat, but scared to put it in the place tank because of how low it gets the pH to. So do very small amounts, because it will alter your pH pretty well. And I'm not sure like number of gallons you're dealing with, but small amounts. What I would do is take a very small amount, right? See how much that affects it, and then do this over a course of weeks with water changes before you start adding more and shifting it. If you see too much change, you start removing some immediately. But yeah, it can have a significant shift. So just be aware of that. Connor Costello, one more question. Somewhere I heard that leaf litter releases CO2 as they decompose, so if you made a layer under the substrate to replace them, would it replicate the wild and help the plants? Okay. Yes. Some very small amount of carbon dioxide as a part of the breakdown process occurs. However, I don't know if it would be substantial enough to really kind of raise that bar of gaseous CO2 in the aquarium. Or at least you would have to have so much leaf litter that might be difficult. But what's more important is that as that leaf litter breaks down, it provides natural fertilizer, right? It's like compost in a way. So there are all these nutrients that your new roots can feed upon in those plants that probably matter significantly more than the CO2 that's being released as a matter of that decomposition process. That's why we have like the grape leaf trick with crips and things like that, where like we're using specific leaves that we know are high in certain. So like you could use like banana leaves because they have high potassium for some potassium plants, things like that, to help supplement some of those particular plants using something that will naturally decay and is aquarium safe. That's the reason why we do it. It's basically like an organic root tab. It was like the way to think about it. All right. Let's see here. Laura Bustos, how small of a tank could I do with a Moonlight Gourami? Would it not only survive, but they're in a 10-gallon, only a pair? Do they need lots of room? Okay, I have to remind myself which Gourami that is. Aren't these... These are a variation of the Pearl Gourami, aren't they? Oh, actually probably closer to the 3 spot. So it's, and what I'm reading really briefly here, it says they can get up to 6 inches. I kind of doubt they get that big in captivity, but they might get to like your 4-inch range. And if so, I would say early on, you probably want something like a 10-gallon tank if you're trying to do a pair, but long term, you might want something bigger, more like a 40-gallon breeder. So just keep in mind that they can get pretty big, kind of like the big blue 3-spot gouramis or the kind of the gold gourami. They get a much bigger body. So they're more closely related to like the 3-spot gourami. They get some good size on them. So 10-gallon might not do the trick. You might really want to get something with a lot more room. You could probably get away with something like a 20 or 29 for a while, but eventually you probably want to move them, if you're doing especially a pair, at least a 40-gallon as they start putting on that bigger body size. Granted, they don't sit in high flow waters, so they might not need a lot of movement, like say a rainbow fish does. But that's what I'd look at. Fish easy. Bentley, I have a tank with floating hornwort. I told y'all I can't speak English. Did well before, but for some reason it has started to collect tons of detritus. Any reason why it started doing this? So, my first question to you, Easy, would be, have we seen an explosion of fish in this tank? Is this like a breeding guppy colony? Because if so, if we're starting to feed our fish more and they're producing more waste, then naturally there's more detritus in the tank than we had originally, and it's going to start gathering up here and there. Did we have a major change in the fish that are in the tanks? Like, did we add a couple of messy plecos in there or something else that eats quite a lot or makes quite a lot of mess and isn't necessarily cleaning some of that plant matter, so it's causing stuff to get up into the water column? Because that might be why. I would ask myself those couple of questions first before I worry necessarily, like, is it a problem with the plant or a problem with my filter? I would be looking at what changes have I made to this tank over time as far as the fish are concerned first. Because if all of a sudden, like, I'm feeding twice as much food as I was when the hornwort was looking amazing, that's going to tell me, oh, there's just so much stuff in here that inevitably I'm getting detritus buildup. And maybe I need to do water changes more frequently, or I need to do some adjustment as to like flow rates or something like that to make sure the filter is picking stuff up. Maybe I need to do filter maintenance more frequently because it's just too much detritus isn't getting picked up in the filter media, whatever that may be. I'd be looking at some stuff like that. If you're still having some trouble or struggling with that, shoot me an email. bentley.pasco@gmail.com. I can be a little slow, especially right now as I'm super busy at work. I've been working upwards of as late as midnight on some days recently. I literally came home after my club meeting last week when we skipped stream, and I was working from 11:30 to midnight to check on a few things just to make sure I was ready in the morning at like 7 a.m. That's just it's been a little busy, so my brain is so fried. Why I can't speak the English no more. Oh man. But yeah, shoot me an email if you need to. We're gonna do last call. Hashtag RFBF. We'll get you entered into tonight's drawing. We'll put them back on there for 7 beautiful Turkana Jewel Cichlids sent to you next day air courtesy of Redfish Bluefish, my buddy Jason. Hashtag RFBF in chat. We will draw that momentarily, so get that thing in chat now. We'll find maybe one more. Ooh, Gary's bringing assorted rainbow eggs to the Raleigh Club meet. Ooh, baby. That sounds pretty dope. Could decaying leaves be the problem? Yes, absolutely. Decaying leaves could be one of the other pieces to the puzzle there. But yeah. All right. So if you got RFBF in chat, we're going to get ready to do the drawing. Let's see if my window capture is still functioning correctly. There we go. To fix it. Where do I have it? Bingo, bango. We're going to put this on there so you guys can see this. Get ready. Here we go. You can see no luck incentives or anything. It's a straight up easy peasy thing. We have wait a minute. Hold on. This tells me some problems. I see 0 eligible users. What is going on here? Did I hit buttons that ruin something? This feels like it should be working. Okay. Hang on, folks. I need to fix this. I probably should have looked at this way earlier, but, you know how distracted I get. I'm going to unshare this for a half sec. Bonk, while I monkey with this thing and see what's going on. A couple people, just like 1 or 2 of you, just put RFBF in chat real fast. Oh no. Huh. Oh. I see what you didn't do. Oh boy. We done goofed. Let's see here. You gonna work yet? If this thing's broken, I gotta do some weird stuff. Because it should. Yeah, that's correct. Okay, give me a half sec here, folks. Give me a half sec. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Should have done this right in the first place. I'll figure out why it's not picking up anything. My concern is... This worked perfectly last week. What is this nonsense? Okay, let me... Well, there it is. I figured it out. Okay. It is now working again. Very quickly, hashtag RFBF in chat. We're a little over, but we'll go like 2 more minutes. Everybody who's here, hashtag RFBF in chat. Oh, took forever to get this thing working again. Because I know a number of you who it shows has not entered have... I know someone that has a giveaway tool they built just for the fish fam. Yeah, well, this is simple for me, and it doesn't require me doing normally excessive work. Get him in there. Let's see how many people we got in this bad boy right now. 116. So, in theory, I should see, I don't know, at least 75 people, right? Let them roll in. Let them roll in. For these beautiful Turkana jewel cichlids, you will receive 7. This many. It's a lot of fishes. For free. Recommendation is at least a 20-gallon tank, although preferably 29 to 40 gallons for that number of fish. If you're going to split them to multiple tanks, you can. They are relatively community-friendly. All those things. Yeah, Stephen P., I know you're advertising for Liquid Zoo's chat nonsense. I know. Oh, I need to make mods eligible. Bonk. Mods can be eligible too. What is this nonsense? Jeff Kane, whoever wins, let me know when you get babies. It's not case sensitive, Bob. It's not case sensitive. Specifically don't have a case sensitive. I just like putting it in capitals. I'll show you guys my window just so you can see it again. Bonk. You can even see right now it's in not capitals and it's picking people up. So make sure you are entered in this bad boy. Fishy fishies just for you. You have to be in the U.S. Sorry, my Canadian friends or my Australian friends. I do have some random people all over the world that watch. Thank you to all you international wonderful people. Did you just call my tool nonsense? Yes, Matt. Yes, I did. You want to fight about it? Can't even see my face. Dang it. That's not as good. You can only hear the inflection in my beautiful voice. We could go deep, real deep on this bad boy, though. What do you think? A little bit of radio time? All right, I'm up to 61. Come on. RFBF in chat. Don't need to spam it. Only once. Don't worry. Daniel, I got you, buddy. Make sure you have the hashtag, Charisse. Let's see if it shows you in here. I'll check your name real fast. Bom, bom, bom. You're in there, Charisse. You're good. I see the dot by your name. I may cry now. Come on now. Come on now. All right. Hashtag RFBF last call. They're not, I don't think they're full adults, but they're getting close. They're getting close. All right. 61 eligible users. 5, 4, 3, a 2, a 1. Boom. Rye Guy Outdoors, you are the lucky winner. You have, you literally just posted, but you have about a minute to confirm you're here. I will need you to send an email to bentley.pasco@gmail.com. And you're going to have to send me your shipping address. There he is. Oh my God, I'm here. Good to see you. So, that being said, shoot me an email. I need your shipping address. And then I will send you along to Mr. Jason, and he will get these beautiful fish on their way to you. If you do have any questions as far as care for these fish, he can give you tons of details. And if not, go check out my good friend Alex, living history, or the secret history living inside your aquarium. See, this is how brain dead I am right now. He's been breeding these fish for a while. You can also check out Danica Aquatics. They have been breeding this fish for a while. They have tons of information about how to keep these wonderful and beautiful little cichlids. They're beautiful little fish, and they can be very prolific. So get ready. The baby train is coming. So yeah, shoot me an email, and we'll get you taken care of. Alrighty. Folks, with that being said, that takes us to time for the evening. I greatly appreciate everybody showing up. Again, a massive thank you to Thomas Barron, Bob Purcell, Jeff Kane for your super chats and gifted memberships tonight. I really appreciate it. And to the rest of you, maybe you're new to the channel because you saw the Pet Smart Trick video, or you're just an old time fan who helped share that video around. Just a huge thank you. That has been literally the high point of my week. It has just been seeing basically that video perform better than any video I've ever put out in the past. So pretty fantastic. Yeah, it's just Ryguy. It's bentley.pasco@gmail.com. I'll put it in one more time. Past the spam here. But yeah, shoot me an email there. That way I can get your shipping information, get it off to Jason at Redfish Bluefish, and he will ship you those beautiful cichlids. Yeah, be ready for an overnight ship, so he'll probably work with you a little bit to arrange some of those things, but yeah, enjoy that. We'll be back next Tuesday for a live stream video this Saturday. All the usuals. Danica Aquatics are like, their care is very difficult. You feed them and watch them grow. Yeah, they're fairly flexible fish. They can take a lot of water parameters. They're great little fish. So you're gonna enjoy these a ton, and they're beautiful. So yeah, as always, guys, thank you very much. Big thanks to Redfish Bluefish for sponsoring this giveaway, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome. Chocobo hat, and